Hello everyone and welcome. In this video, we'll share more with you about our DNA as a company at APAX LAB, who we are, our mission, and our vision for the future. Now, we started the company a little bit over a year and a half ago now, and our mission from the beginning has been to improve coffee worldwide. So we've been into specialty coffee for over 10 years, and we have noticed that around the world, people use obviously very different water, and the quality of that water impacts the way the coffee expresses itself. And with more and more people putting effort into getting great coffees, cafes having nicer and nicer coffees, producers producing better coffee, we're starting to see all different parts of the industry improve the quality. Roasting has now sort of fully become automated, and brewing is a lot better than it was before. But we find that the weakest link into a cup of coffee, what makes a cup of coffee not as good as it could be, is generally the water that we use. And the biggest hurdle to that, in our opinion, in the past has been that there's a lot of misunderstanding about how water works, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about how we can improve this water to make better tasting coffee. And this is the thing that we wanted to change from day one at APAX LAB. We wanted to simplify the way water is looked at, and we wanted to make it more accessible to anyone worldwide. And obviously water is a very complicated topic, it's a very vast topic, it's a rabbit hole that we've been into for well over 6 years. And the idea of simplifying everything and making everything more accessible to everyone, sort of like dumbing down this topic, was paramount to us. Now, there are two conflicting ideas with our mission: making better water accessible to everyone, but also making it extremely easy. They're conflicting in the sense that making better water is not universal, as in it's very subjective to your personal preferences, but also the coffee that you're using. And there's not one water recipe, one mineral recipe that will work across every single coffee. And that's sort of like a myth that we need to get out of the door. There's no one recipe that will work perfectly for every coffee, because every coffee can have different attributes be highlighted, and they have a different range of attributes that are positive and negatives, and also our personal preferences can be different. I love high acid coffees, you might not, and for that reason there's no one mineral recipe that will work across every coffee. So that's a tough one, especially if we want to make it easy, because if we wanted to make it complicated by letting people blend different minerals together, individual minerals, it would mean that it defeats the purpose of making this widely available to everyone. So what we did is we used our knowledge of how different minerals and different ions impact the flavors of coffee, which is information and data that we've been gathering over the years throughout coffee competitions and workshops that we've conducted all around the world. So we've used that knowledge in order to create blends of minerals, like what we call different profiles that we have, that highlight very targeted things in coffee. And if I take, for example, the one I have in front of me, tonic, that one was formulated with the idea of highlighting acidity in coffee, making your brew a lot juicier and a lot brighter. And we've done that with basically 3 different profiles that we have released. So tonic, jam, lilac. Jam being the one that, as the name suggests, brings a lot of sweetness, a lot of body, and lilac is the more floral and elegant one. And with these 3 different profiles, we think that we cover the vast majority of specialty coffees that are out there. The really bright and fruity ones, the sweet and round and rich ones, and the floral and elegant cups that you can find as well. And instead of letting people figure out the ratios between different minerals, we've done all of the hard work in selecting which ions and minerals to go inside of each profile, but also the ratios. That means that straight out of the bottle, it makes it very easy to use, and it makes it very simple to improve your coffee. Now, the second hurdle in terms of improving coffee and making great tasting water accessible to everyone was getting access to demineralized water. So we would generally recommend to use our products into demineralized water so that you know that there's nothing in the base. So demineralized water has no minerals in the base. There's nothing inside. And so when we add minerals into it, we know what minerals are inside of the water. We control everything. And that's a lot more replicable, and you have sort of like better guaranteed results. But in different parts of the world, it can be very challenging to get demineralized water. Or it can be annoying to have to go to the store and buy demineralized water. And even the idea of buying demineralized water can seem a little crazy to some people. Like, I hate having to buy store-bought water, for instance. So one of the things that we wanted to do in order to bring amazing tasting water to everyone and not just to nerdy coffee competitors like us, we wanted this to be sort of like broadly accepted by the markets, is that we pioneered this idea of coffee seasoning. The idea that minerals can be added to coffee directly into the cup and not so much just inside of your brewing water. Because there might be only like 5% of you guys watching this who make their own water from scratch. Demineralized water, add minerals. That's a very nerdy thing to do. Like, I do it, but my mom, my dad don't do it. My friends don't do it. And the ability to be able to take a bottle, add a couple of drops to coffee after it's been brewed, I think is what really set us apart from the beginning, because it made improving coffee after being brewed possible. Before that, if you made a coffee and it didn't taste good, you'd have to make another one or just accept to drink it. And that was part of our ethos from the beginning. We wanted to make better coffee accessible to everyone, and that goes through the ability to improving it after being brewed. And one of the biggest misconceptions that we had to break from the beginning was this idea that minerals impact the extraction of coffee. And there is little to no evidence that minerals play a crucial role in the extraction of coffee compounds in the extraction process. So there's this general idea that has been floating around in specialty coffee that minerals have this superpower to extract coffee compounds during the extraction process, and that if you don't have minerals in your water, you won't have a good extraction. And let me tell you right now, that's not true. That's not the case. So if you're brewing two coffees, the same coffee, one with demineralized water and one with water that has some minerals, and you measure the total extraction, so the total dissolved solids in coffee, so how much coffee we have dissolved into the water through the extraction process, they will be identical. They will be extremely, extremely, extremely close, if not exactly the same. And that shows that minerals don't actually influence the extraction process. They don't have this superpower to pull out soluble compounds out of coffee. But if you taste these two brews, if you taste these two cups, they'll taste widely different. And the mechanism that happens is that we see that minerals impact the way we perceive different attributes in coffee. So if I take the example of magnesium chloride, magnesium chloride is composed of magnesium ions and chloride ions, and they impact the way we perceive flavors. So magnesium will come and boost the acidity of coffee, for example, and chloride will come and bring you this like nice sweetness and coating texture. So whenever you add magnesium chloride to your brew, it'll make your coffee a little bit more acidic, and you'll make your coffee a little bit sweeter and heavier. And that is what minerals do. They change the perception, they interact with our taste buds, and they basically change the signals that are being sent to our brain in terms of how we experience different attributes in coffee. And obviously not just in coffee, in anything that we do in food and other beverages. They have the same impact, the same mechanism. So with this in mind, we really wanted to break this preconceived idea that minerals were essential to the extraction process and that you needed them in your brewing water. Because once you've established that they don't actually do anything in the extraction process, and that whether you add them before brewing or after brewing is the exact same thing, you can actually decide to add them after brewing. And the massive breakthrough with this is that you get to make a coffee with a water that has either some minerals, just a little bit, or no minerals at all, taste the brew, and then depending on what this brew is missing, you get to add the minerals afterwards. So if the brew that I made is a little bit flat, there's not much acidity, and it lacks this vibrancy and this nice brightness to it and juiciness that you would want from, let's say, washed Canyon, then you can add a couple of drops of this formula that we've designed to highlight brightness, juiciness, and acidity in coffee. And that's especially useful when you're dealing with multiple new coffees, when you don't necessarily know what a specific roast is going to taste like, or when you haven't brewed coffee the way you want. So that means that you maybe made some mistakes in brewing, something happens, because that's the reality of things when we're, first thing in the morning we make a coffee and we're not fully waking up, or we're behind the bar all day pumping coffees. It gives you the ability to taste the coffee and then fix it afterwards. And before that, there was nothing you could do to fix a coffee after it's been brewed. And that's how in my opinion, in my eyes, we make water for coffee accessible to everyone. Not necessarily through the usage of it, because we still have 3 different profiles and more coming in the future. But we have essentially the ability to improve coffee after. And that is where we think that we're serving the community, we're serving baristas worldwide in the ability to improve coffee every single time they make a brew. So now that's part of our mission, and making coffee accessible to everyone through improving better water. And we obviously want to go even further than that. We want to push that further. We're looking at ways to refine our products, collaborating with different brands to do specific mineral compositions for them so that it works across their brewing technique, their coffees, the roasts that they have, etc. And even things like implementing better systems behind the bar for cafes, so that even the action of opening the bottle, adding a couple of drops into a coffee, it takes a couple of seconds. We think that it's fine, it doesn't take too much time, but efficiency behind the bar in a busy cafe can always, we can always do better. So we're looking at ways to smoothen that process, and that's what drives us on a day-to-day basis. Now, there's also this idea of always pushing boundaries, always making coffee taste better, which is why our motto, Reach Coffee Climax, is essentially our tagline. That's what we use every single day. We live by those words, we want to always make coffee better. And essentially the way we do that is we do a lot of research and developments, either in our lab or throughout coffee competitions with different brewers and baristas around the world. And we take that knowledge and we try to find ways to make it, to simplify it so that the mass market, anybody at home, can have access to that. And it's this sort of fine line between making products that win world championships, but it can also be used by, your grandparents, my grandparents. And this is part of the DNA of the company. We don't want to make any compromise on quality, and that's why we have products that win world championships. That's why everybody winning coffee competitions is using the products that we make at the moment. But we want this to be usable by anybody at home or in cafes. We want it to be so easy that a 6-year-old could add a couple of drops into their coffee, or not into a coffee. Don't give coffee to a 6-year-old, but to any drink that they're drinking. And yeah, that about sums up who we are as a company, what we're trying to do, and the things that we'll be doing in the future. We've talked a lot about coffee because this was our background, but of course minerals play a major role in other beverages and even food. So we have slowly started doing other collaborations in different industries. You might see us, release different products in the future for different types of drinks and beverages. But there's also a beautiful industrial application of minerals to things like soft drinks, beer, wine making, or even different types of milk and juices, etc. And we believe that minerals have so much power and so much untapped potential that they could literally change the world, from a sensory point of view. And just to finish with an anecdote, when we run masterclasses and when we run day-long workshops, sometimes during the break, I love to bring a can of soda, a can of Coca-Cola, and pour that into different glasses and then show the people how much better we can make Coca-Cola taste just by adding a specific combination of minerals into it. And it's crazy how much sweeter Coca-Cola can be when you're adding the right minerals into it. And this leads us to believe that we potentially can reduce the sugar content in certain drinks, that we can potentially improve the quality of acidity without adding any acid, just by playing around with the way we perceive different attributes with minerals. And to go back and to close on a note related to specialty coffee, I've traveled around the world a lot. I've gone to coffee producing countries, I've met plenty of coffee producers, and so many times I meet people, we try their coffee together, and they tell me, we taste a coffee, for example, like out of farm cupping, and they might say, the acidity is not great. It's like we're not super happy about this harvest. We think that had we had changed things a little bit differently, had we picked the cherries a bit sooner, maybe we would have had a better acidity, or maybe in the fermentation we could have done something. It's frustrating because maybe we'll have to fix that next year. And when I taste this, because obviously they see things through the prism of agriculture and fermentation processing, but I see everything through the prism of minerals and water. And we cup coffee together and I go, well, no, the reason why there's no acidity in your coffee is because of the high amount of bicarbonates in your water. Like you can taste that the coffee is like a little bit chalky, there's a bit of dryness, you can feel this heaviness and the lack of acidity. I'm pretty confident I can attribute that to the high amount of bicarbonate in your water. So if you change your water, reduce the amount of bicarbonate and potentially increase sodium and magnesium, then you'll have an amazing acidity with your coffee. And that's very often the case. And so this makes me think that a lot of the time in specialty coffee, we put a lot of the responsibility on the people who, have the hardest task, which are coffee producers. And this is one of the things that we wanted to change as well. We wanted to put more responsibilities towards baristas, but not just responsibilities, but also the way for baristas and brewers to express themselves. And that means that with a given coffee, you could have so many different possibilities of expression, so many different ways that this coffee can taste, but there's only so much that a change in grind size, a change in brew ratio is going to get you. There's very hard limitations to that. And we think that by changing the mineral composition or by adding minerals to coffee, you get to have such a broad canvas of possibilities of things that you can do and really exciting expressions you can have of coffee. And that's the feedback that we've had since we launched, like from baristas, cafe owners. We had people say, well, we're just rediscovering brewing. Like we're all rediscovering some of the coffees that we have. Our coffees have never tasted so good. It's fun to be making coffee behind the bar because now we get to change the mineral composition and we get to push these coffees even further. And this goes directly, this resonates really with us. Like these are the type of messages that make us wake up in the morning and keep pushing the boundaries of coffee and keep doing what we do. And this is what we'll be doing more of in the future. So we're excited to see more and more people on board. We're excited to see a lot of you guys joining the train of adding minerals into coffee, this idea of seasoning coffee, and would love to see more people, adopt this so that adding a couple of drops of minerals into your coffee doesn't become an odd thing that some, nerdy coffee people might do, but potentially something that in the future we start to see in every single cafe worldwide. The same way as we season food and we can add a bit of lemon juice or salt onto a dish, like we could be doing the same thing with coffee. And we're very grateful to your support. If you have any questions regarding anything that we've covered, drop a comment down below, like and subscribe. This helps us grow the channel. And if there's anything that you want to talk about from a technical point of view, let us know in the comments below and we'll shoot some more videos in the future. Thank you very much.